Vice President Yemi Osinbajo appeals to Nigerians not to engage in any reprisal attacks against the South Africans and their investment in Nigeria.
The Federal Executive Council meeting for today, September 4th, has been postponed.
Nigerian Army redefines conduct of Operation Lafiya-Dole in the northeast to enhance response to threats.
Investigations of the incident have been concluded and decisive actions will be taken to ensure it never happens again.
And 7 Senator Diri declared winner of the PDP primary in Bayelsa State.
Now, let's bring you the details in full as Nigeria has promised to deepen existing collaboration and cooperation with Ukraine in critical economic sectors for enhanced benefit to both countries and their people. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance while exchanging views with outgoing Ukrainian ambassador to Nigeria, Dr. Villarreal Alexandrov.
State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the president also granted a farewell audience to Sri Lankan envoy, promising to take another look at the closure of the Nigerian embassy in the Asian country.
The Ukrainian ambassador to Nigeria, Dr. Villarreal Alexandrov, who spent over 4 years on tour of duty in Nigeria, was in the State House on a farewell visit. Ukraine currently collaborates with Nigeria in critical economic sectors, including education, military cooperation, and space exploration. The outgoing ambassador told President Buhari that there are almost 5,000 Nigerians presently studying in Ukraine, and the number increases every year. Education, he said, is a great investment for the future. Dr. Alexandrov said Ukraine also supplies Nigeria military hardware and ammunition to fight insurgency, while 2 agreements have been signed by the 2 countries on space exploration. President Buhari appreciated the highly beneficial relations between Nigeria and Ukraine, which he said will be taken to the next level.
This is the sign of power of Ukrainian king.
I see.
So I present this for you as a king of Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, the president has promised to re-examine the closure of the Nigerian embassy in Colombo in view of the important relationship Nigeria shares with Sri Lanka. Speaking at the farewell audience granted the outgoing High Commissioner of Sri Lanka to Nigeria, Thambirija Ravinthiran, the president explained that financial challenges which the country faced in 2017 informed the closure of some Nigerian embassies and consulates during a rationalization exercise. He said the federal government will take another look at that decision as it affects Sri Lanka following the request by the outgoing envoy. The High Commissioner, who spent over 4 out of his 30-year career in diplomatic service in Nigeria, described his stay in the country as remarkable in several ways. Mr. Ravinthiran said Sri Lanka has a lot to offer Nigeria in the areas of counterterrorism, Medicare, and higher education. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has noted with deep concern reported attacks on Nigerian citizens and property in South Africa since August 29, 2019. In a statement by Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, President Buhari has dispatched a special envoy to convey to President Cyril Ramaphosa his concern and also interact with his South African counterpart on the situation. The special envoy is expected to arrive in Pretoria latest Thursday, September 5th, 2019.
And the federal government says it is pushing to ensure that Nigerians whose shops were looted in South Africa are compensated and those responsible held accountable for their crimes.
This was at a meeting between Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, and the South African High Commissioner to Nigeria, Bobby Monroe. Usman Aliyu has details.
The recent looting of shops and burning of property belonging to Nigerians in South Africa sent shockwaves among Nigerians. Many people wonder why such misunderstanding keeps recurring in the nations regarded as economic powers in Africa. At a meeting, leaders representing the two nations agree it is no longer a matter of silence. Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Geoffrey Onyama and the South Africa head of mission in Nigeria, Bobby Moro, say they are worried by the criminal behavior exhibited by some South Africans against some Nigerians. Particularly Nigeria's Minister Geoffrey Onyama said there must be accountability and responsibility whenever such crimes are committed.
And essentially being prepared to preempt such attacks as we're witnessing today, and taking other measures including compensation and so forth, but essentially having the two working as a team.
Apart from the measures the two countries put in place, they assured Nigerians that justice must be done.
It is therefore quite very unfortunate that we find ourselves in a situation that we found ourselves in now. The government has issued a statement yesterday condemning the acts of violence and acts of criminality. For us, these are acts that continue to demonstrate that there are criminals within society that seek to destabilize the country. There are criminals who seek to create an impression that South Africans do not subscribe to the principle of Ubuntu.
It is expected that the measures will spur authorities in South Africa to address what people see as horrendous violence against Nigerians in that country once and for all. In Abuja, Usman Aliu, NTA News.
And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described as unacceptable the constant attack on Nigerians by South Africans.
The Vice President was reacting to the latest attack that has left a number of Nigerians and other nationals dead and their properties destroyed. He spoke to the State House correspondent Jide Onifade in Kano.
On Nigeria in South Africa. So what's your attacks on Nigeria in South Africa? So what's your...
Well, let me say first that this recent attack is again a condemnable act. It is very sad and very unfortunate that the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians living in South Africa is once again being destroyed with such wantonness and with such carelessness and recklessness. Is very, very sad indeed. And again, I think it's unfortunate. Nigeria has invested a great deal, not only in the destruction of apartheid, in the pulling down of apartheid, but again, this is all contrary even to the very ideas that all of the great leaders of South Africa fought for, including the current president. You know, this level of bigotry, this sort of bigotry is just terrible and is so completely unacceptable. I believe that Mr. President has already spoken about this. Obviously, we're very concerned about this, and we certainly intend to take this up with the authorities in South Africa and to ensure that this sort of thing does not repeat itself. It is absolutely unconscionable, it's terrible.
Also, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has appealed to Nigerians not to engage in any reprisal against the South Africans and their investments in Nigeria. The Vice President says government is already taking actions at the highest level to see to an end the xenophobic attacks and ensure that the perpetrators are punished.
But we must, everyone is deeply hurt and offended by what took place in South Africa, the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. But we must be calm, we must be patient, and I think we must also realize that two wrongs do not make a right. One is very, the death of so many Nigerians is regrettable, and I express the sincere condolences of the government and and many Nigerians, to the families who have lost their loved ones. But we must be very careful, especially in Nigeria. The reports we're hearing of attacks or attempted attacks on MTN or ShopRite will be shooting ourselves in the foot. MTN is a publicly quoted company in Nigeria today. Most of its shareholders, many of its shareholders are Nigerians. ShopRite, the malls, most of the shops are owned by Nigerians. So if those businesses are hurt in any way, we'll be hurting ourselves. We'll be hurting ourselves as Nigerians. So what I really want to call for calm and let us take a peaceful approach to this. The government has already in very strong terms expressed our outrage to the South African government, and the president has also decided that an envoy will be going over to South Africa to express Nigeria's complete objection and Nigeria's the fact that we're so offended by what has happened. So that I think will suffice, for now. But we must be careful not to hurt ourselves by attacking businesses that we think are South African. Practically all of those businesses, MTN, look at the number of people that employ, they're all Nigerians. Same as ShopRite, shops are owned, many of the shops in the malls are owned by Nigerians. So I think we should really be calm and allow peace to reign. Two wrongs do not make a right. Let's consolidate on what we have in Nigeria and continue to ensure that we do not allow what has happened in South Africa to repeat itself. And this is the point that has been made very clearly to the South African government. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency.
And the federal government has appealed to Nigerians not to attack South African companies operating in Nigeria in retaliation for the ongoing xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa. In a statement by Special Assistant to the Minister of Information Culture, Segun Adeyemi, Lai Mohammed described as deeply disturbing the reports that some Nigerians angered by the xenophobic attacks in South Africa have started attacking South African companies in Nigeria. He said that targeting South African companies in Nigeria for attack is a classic case of cutting off one's nose to spite his face, because the investors in such companies, especially MTN and ShopRite, are Nigerians. Lai Mohammed said the majority of the workers in South African companies operating in Nigeria are also Nigerians. He noted that Nigerian workers in such companies will be hardest hit if such companies are forced to shut down for fear of attacks. He explained that the federal government is already taking decisive measures to put an end to the persistent xenophobic attacks against Nigerians in South Africa. The minister further maintained that President Muhammadu Buhari has dispatched a special envoy to convey to his South African counterpart, President Cyril Ramaphosa, on his concerns and also interact with his South African counterpart on the situation.
Meanwhile, the All Progressives Congress strongly condemns the recent South African xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, particularly on Nigerians, their property and businesses. National Publicity Secretary of the party, Lanre Issa Onilu, in a statement is by the unwarranted attacks Nigeria and the APC says deserves better from South Africa. The party said attack on citizens of other countries points to a failure of leadership and that the South African leaders cannot exonerate themselves from these cowardly acts. The APC calls on South African ruling party, the African National Congress ANC, to urgently step in as the ANC government can no longer pretend about the obvious contradiction. The party added that violence being meted on Nigerians under ANC's call to question the very essence of the struggle against apartheid, in which Nigeria was a frontline ally of South Africa.
The coalition of civil society organizations protesting the $9.6 billion judgment against Nigeria has threatened to occupy British and Irish embassies if officials fail to respond to their demands. Onengiye Fineface has more on this.
It's the second day running into the organized by the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations of Nigeria. They are clamoring for intervention to ensure that the judgment given against Nigeria of $9.6 billion awarded to PNID is set aside. But 2 days into the protest, they've not received any meaningful commitment from the British High Commission, where they are currently holding their protest.
We are still waiting for them to talk to us. But we've given them 21 days ultimatum to revert that judgment. We've also appealed to Boris Johnson to step into that judgment so that they can reduce the slump, bring it down to the barest.
Yes, after 21 days ultimatum and nothing is done, we will come back here to occupy British Embassy. This time, no going home. We'll sleep here, we'll wine here, we'll dine here until a drastic action is taken.
Some of the protesters are tired. They've been on the road for hours. Although they are tired, they are still resolved to continue on the protest until they get positive commitment from the Irish Embassy and the British High Commission here in Abuja. On NTA, Fine Face, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has restated the federal government's determination to pursue the reversal of the United Kingdom court ruling against Nigeria and in favor of the Process and Industrial Development Limited, PID. The minister stated this when he visited the corporate headquarters of Leadership newspaper in Abuja. Anthony Forsin reports.
The Information and Culture Minister is now visitor to the corporate headquarters of the Leadership newspapers. And each time he comes visiting, it is always a moment to show encomium on the organization. At today's visit, Lai Mohammed applauded the newspaper for, in his words, the patriotic position the paper has taken. It is in line with this that the Information and Culture Minister placed on the doorsteps of the nation's media not to be swayed by unpatriotic citizens who have formed a league with foreign collaborators to defraud the country.
A company admits that it has invested $40 million into Nigeria, and you give an award of $9.6 billion. This is unprecedented, that the award is exorbitant, is excessive, manifestly unreasonable. It goes beyond protecting the commercial interests of the company. It's punitive in nature. I mean, and this is why we appeal to the sense of patriotism of our media in particular, to understand what the issues are. That it's not about one administration or the other, it's about Nigeria. If people can just come in, walk into Nigeria with a portfolio and walk away with 20% of our entire foreign reserve. These are the issues at stake.
Running the Leadership newspaper's editorial teams through the issues at stake between the federal government of Nigeria and PNID Limited, an Irish firm, the minister maintained that the federal government is doing all within its powers to stave off any seizure of its assets.
Even the capacity of the contracting party, you can't give what you don't have. The Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources is not the competent contracting party. It has no gas. The gas belongs to an NPC and the ROCs. And that's why we are glad that the President has asked the EFCC, the NIA, and the Inspector of Police to really look into this matter and find out what really transpired. Who are those collaborators from within and without government that led us to this, sorry pass? We are doing everything possible, and we are very optimistic that it would stave off any embarrassment.
The forum gave the Leadership newspaper team the opportunity to equally ask questions on other national issues, which the minister provided answers to. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
Women conflict mediators from some African countries are seeking ways of developing a culture of dialogue among the diverse ethnic and religious groups in the continent.
Mohammed Umar Ajingi reports that the women visited Governor Nasiru Ahmed El-Rufai, who promised to collaborate with them for sustainable peace in Kaduna State.
Many African countries have suffered untold hardship due to conflict. The peace mediators from Kenya, Mali, Sudan, and other African countries gathered under the aegis of Farmer Headers Initiative for Peace and Dialogue to proffer a common solution that will resolve the difference among different ethnic groups and religious communities. The need for justice and inclusion of more women in decision-making roles to prevent violent conflict as mothers are some of the issues brought to the fore that will help in peace building.
My message to you and from Kenya is going to come as a form of a challenge and a question. What kind of world do you want to see for your children and your children's children?
For Governor Nasru Ahmad El-Rufai, African leaders need to step up their efforts in ensuring justice among different groups.
To find commonalities and build relationships that will lead to preventing and mediating conflict in your countries and in the continent, but also providing moral support to each and one another.
The participants are expected after the meeting to engage women groups in Nigeria on peace dialogue to enhance their capacity for conflict mediation. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
A seventh senator representing Bayelsa's Central Senatorial District, Doye Diri, has been declared winner of the PDP primary to fly the party's flag in the November 16 governorship election. Senator Doye Diri scored 561 votes to beat other 20 aspirants, with Ndutimi Alaibe coming second with 365 votes. Chairman of the Electoral Committee and Governor of Taraba State, Darius Dixon Ishaku, made the declaration at the Gabriel Okara Cultural Center venue of the primary in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State. Darius Ishaku commended the delegates for a peaceful manner the election was conducted. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party primaries holding in Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, has been disrupted as a result of sporadic shooting by unknown gunmen. Francis Dojo reports that the scare incident occurred at about 1:50 a.m. during vote counting process in the conference stadium.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says the present administration is not deterred in its resolve and resolute commitment in ensuring free, fair and credible elections.
This was the message to a policy roundtable on elections in Nigeria chaired by former INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jega. Thimoti Yusuf reports.
The 2019 general elections have come and gone, but many believe that it is pertinent to discuss and fashion out additional ways towards improving future elections. The United States Institute of Peace is among the groups clamoring for improved electoral integrity. Professor Tairu Jega is a member of USIP's working group, proposing some positive reviews of the election processes.
Since the 2011 general elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has striven to ensure greater integrity to the preparation and conduct of elections in Nigeria.
With the theme, Post-2019 Electoral Reform towards improving the integrity of Nigerian elections, 6 thematic areas were deliberated upon.
Elections must be visibly fair to be credible.
The Electoral Act is the instrument that will be used to conduct, a free, fair and credible election, inshallah, 2023.
Permanent Secretary, Cabinet Affairs, representing the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa.
Notwithstanding any shortcoming associated with the elections, it was adjudged to be largely free, fair, and credible.
INEC, Nigeria's election management body, is expected to work with the recommendations of the Round Table in Abuja. Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The Buhari administration will not tolerate the mismanagement of funds meant for local governments to develop the grassroots.
Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, who stated this in a message to the ongoing Nigerian Local Government Development Summit in Abuja, urged state governors that are foot-dragging on Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit guidelines to implement them without delay. Mitari Ikbeng reports.
Over the years, poor funding of local governments have left most rural areas underdeveloped and neglected. The practice of joint state and local government account has equally not helped matters. To financially resuscitate the local governments, the Buhari administration, through the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, introduced guidelines restricting state governments from tampering with local government statutory allocations and imposing a daily 500,000 naira transactional limit on all 774 local governments. Participants here say implementation has been selective among states.
The state governments are still hanging on to the funds of the local government.
Because of the benefit they drive, they wouldn't want it to be scrapped. They want it to continue.
The reasons for the troubles we have in Nigeria today, particularly the high level of insecurity, the increased level of poverty over the years, is because of the abandonment of the local government system.
The federal government, however, is tightening the noose through regulatory frameworks to stop abuse of the joint state and local government account by state chief executives.
We certainly cannot live with the continued mismanagement of public funds any longer. It is against this bleak background that the present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari has taken steps to upgrade the anti-graft money laundering regulations with the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit guidelines.
I believe the government should take a keen interest in banks that are supporting this, because we know in some states some accounts are being created and these monies are being, after payments of salaries, what is supposed to remain the amount is being paid to these accounts.
Resolutions from this local government summit will be presented to the Federal Executive Council by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
You're watching the news at 10 on NTA News 24, Abuja. Still to come.